Do 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 do.
Welcome to the Red Bean Podcast, the New Orleans edition. I am Mr. Toad.
And I'm Dr. Frog.
Welcome. We're here at the Bayou, and we're going to be talking about this new sensation called North of Richmond. North of Richmond?
Men North of Richmond.
Yeah.
So Richmond is a town in Virginia. And
what is
I'm
it?
guessing the Richmond, well, it's south of D.C. And so I'm figuring that they're talking about Maryland, D.C. area. People related to Washington, D.C. and government.
Yep. Oliver Anthony, Richmond, North of Richmond.
Mm-hmm. And I actually know some people at the University of Richmond.
Oh, okay.
Spiders.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. We got to get those spiders.
Oh, okay, I guess. I don't really spiders, but...
Yeah, I mean, as frogs and toads, that's what we eat.
Right.
Bugs.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot how delicious they were after everything that we've been eating in the local area.
That's right. We'll be talking about that on our later on. But let's talk about Oliver Anthony's Richmond, North of Richmond. I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are, and then I'll chip in at what I think, too.
Sure.
What do you think about that song?
Well, if I just look at the song, I was a big Bob Dylan fan growing up. I think he's the father of rock and roll rather than Elvis Presley. And, these times are a changing album. There's a lot of interesting lyricism, especially in pieces like North Country Blues, where I was used to these sorts of messages growing up in a lot of folk music that I listened to about, in the East, they complain that they're paying too high. Here you have a lot of imagery of people, leeching off the government and not working. And this is sort of a newer age folk song about the struggles of
the average working
person. I believe the singer is actually a factory worker.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm going to chime in that really shook me on this song was all about how, your money is not worth anything, that the government knows, like they're basically saying, what you know, but the government knows that you don't know, but you do know. And the whole idea is like, in some ways, he's talking about how the government, there's these people who are very wealthy, who want more power, they want to control everything. They also want to control the way you think. And on top of that, I love the quote, don't just worry about the miners, politicians.
He's saying, I wish the politicians would care about the miners.
Yes.
But not just the
miners on an island somewhere.
Which I guess is an Epstein Island reference.
Yeah.
But there's a little play on words with miners. He could mean coal miners he wished that they cared about. But instead they care about...
Because when I do think about, when the politicians are trying to talk to, like, the working person, they'll have, like, the farmer, they'll have maybe a manufacturer or something like that, like factory worker, and then you're going to have a miner. I don't know. It just seems like coal mining, steel ore mining. It seems like that's like a job that the government likes these kind of things because we can extract more stuff. It builds up
historically, but even Dylan was mentioning in the 60s that we're the first business people in general. He describes it as business owners in the East, but they're the first to outsource that kind of work if they can get it cheaper in South America and other countries. But I think his complaint about the dollar not being worth much is that they're spending a lot in Congress. They have these ideas of what they want to spend. The working
the working person can't support it.
And it's not just that they can't support it, but is it something that we want to support? Because what he's saying is that spending is maybe hurting the value of the American dollar as well.
That's
if you overspend and overprint money and that sort of thing.
It's going to make things less affordable. And he's basically complaining about how he's working overtime, which I thought this was an interesting aspect of the song was he's working overtime, but then he's being taxed even more, which is actually true. I've actually seen something it depends on the state you're living in.
Well, if you earn more, yeah, it could put you in a different bracket.
So you might be working for another $80 more, but because the taxes are so crazy, like maybe $80 an hour or something like that.
Well, when he says bullshit pay, I don't think he's talking about $80
an hour. No. I'm saying like by taxes, but I'm saying like taxes. If you work overtime, they're going to take more. So they might say you're going to get paid $80 an hour.
Well,
you might only get $30 back because you're in a higher tax bracket.
Yeah,
which means they're going to tax you at a higher rate. So actually working more can actually be...
To use a real example, it would be something like if you were making $17 an hour, and then in overtime you get
30
time and a half, you get 26
or
something. Then you're right, you'd be taxed at a higher bracket.
Yeah, so it kind of shows this defeatism in the system that we live in. It's, at least in the United States, it feels like the ruling class wants to control everything. They're devaluing the dollar. There seems to be some kind of like psychological operation going on where it's like we know what we're doing, but then the government makes it seem like we don't know what we're doing. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just, when you're spending other people's money, you're a little bit more reckless with it.
Sure.
Like if you know that you're on the company's bill for a dinner, you might order the steak instead of the chicken.
And lobster is starting to look really good on that menu.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out, and then you only have flies at home, of course.
That's right, man. Lobsters, I tell you, and the crawfish, man, even more delicious.
There you go. Yeah, and so you might get, you might spend a little bit extra, and I feel like that's what's coming out of this. He's saying rich people north of Richmond are disconnected to where that money's coming from in the working class.
I think it just speaks to so many people. I mean, right now, as we're looking at the screen, it has 17 million views. Incredible.
In only a few days.
What is it? 8 days.
12 million yesterday, and I believe 6 the day before that. So
in 8 days, they've gotten 17 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
It is speaking to people. I feel like when people hear this song, they're like, yes, this is how I feel. And I would say probably people in the government should probably take note and be like, whoa, I mean, maybe we should try to, maybe serve our, people who vote for us, our constituents.
The thoughts probably aren't even going to be that. It's going to be, how can we manipulate a speech to make people think that we understand the problem so we can get votes.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So, but, that's what politicians have to do.
That's what they're doing. They're just going to play the game and turn us on into each other.
It's hard to be an anti-establishment politician.
I know. It feels like you're like you'll be like the minority in the whole group. They're like, no. We all like to support the corporations.
It's like a self-hating politician. Someone who's cynical of...
It's like, this is the senator who's like the most masochistic. Everyone else gets to go to the parties except him because he doesn't want to play ball.
Yeah, or he's the one saying, turn down the music at night.
Exactly. He's like, turn down the music.
Anyway, it's interesting stuff. And, I think a lot of people like his voice. It kind of reminds me of Sanford and Son or something. It's really high. It's,
Yeah.
It's like, high.
Actually, he says in his profile here that he was inspired by...
Yeah.
We're going to just kind of... I just want to look at the description here.
Yeah.
I'll read it here.
Well,
in the video, it says, when I first came across Oliver Anthony and his music, this is the studio Radio WV,
yes,
West Virginia. When I first came across Oliver Anthony and his music, I was blown away, to say the least. He had a whole collection of songs that I could listen to for hours. Oliver resides in Farmville, Virginia, and his 3 dogs and a plot of land. He plans on turning it into a small farm to raise livestock. We have a whole mess of songs set to release for Oliver for your viewing and listening pleasure. I'm not going to go any further than that, but what we get from this whole picture is this is just some guy that's really representative. You'd say middle of America?
Yeah, a little bit of the American dream, right? Having your own plot of land.
Yeah, being like, I'm getting off the grid. I'm tired of this.
Entrepreneurial too. He doesn't just want to work. He's working at a factory so he can go on to do greater things with his dreams. And he says, I think one of his inspirations is Hank Williams Jr. I can see that. I've listened to some of Hank Williams' music.
So he sings a lot about like a protest song. Would you consider this a protest song, or maybe just a song that he's conveying what he feels?
I think it's I don't like labeling everything as a protest, but I do think it's a commentary on our current U.S. culture.
He seems displeased with it, and I think most people would say that.
He says that there's a lot of people on welfare, and there's a lot of entitlement.
He talked about how there are people that don't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen some of these videos coming out of, like, Philadelphia, but they have hundreds of people, like Skid Row in California.
Kingston Avenue.
Yeah. There's, like, homeless people. People can't eat anything.
There are heroin parks and things like that.
Heroin parks. Yeah.
Yeah. Skid Row, I thought, was L.A.
Yeah, it's like really bad. Like right now, from when I last time I heard, not Louisiana. Yeah, it was just different LA.
Louisiana, people would just sit down next to you and sweat in the heat.
That's right.
They wouldn't give $1. They'd sit down with you and say, "Hey, does that work?"
Nor will they stab you like they might do in LA, because crime is out of control as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, they're more likely to break and enter. But I don't know.
I actually heard like a government official over in LA basically saying, the crime is so out of control. He says he wants to call the National Guard.
They should have called it for the buns and guns.
Yeah, yeah, that was a hell of a story.
Those highways.
Buns and guns. You guys definitely have to go back and re-listen to that one. I really like that, buns and guns.
Yeah, I mean, we always seem to talk about LA a little bit.
I know. It's like the crazy uncle that you don't invite to the home. You're like,
Louisiana.
Take all the sharp objects out of the home.
Broke a record for weather.
Oh, really?
With, days over 100 degrees.
Whoa.
Yep, compared to previous years. But back to this Men North of Richmond, I think, the way he plays with his words is interesting, and it's good. The thing is, I've been listening to folk music my whole life, so none of the messages are surprising to me. For some people, this is the first time they've ever heard folk music, because a lot of people don't listen to stuff pre-1980s.
See, here's my only rebuttal on that one, and it would be this. Whenever I hear this kind of music, it's kind of like, oh, my dog was living next to the house, and then he died. But then you're like, okay, whatever. That's kind of going. Yeah. But this is like, I'm working all day. My money is worthless. I'm not going to say that word because, whatever. It's usually supposed to blank it out.
Well, because there are better words to express our current feelings on the subject.
But the whole thing is just
is what my mom would say.
Yeah. You got to clean that mouth out with some soap. Yeah. But overall, I think it was a great song.
You could taste test the types of soap.
There you go.
And you do the scentless ones from scented.
So I think we'll wrap this up here. But what do you think, Dr. Frog? Would you suggest to listen to this song to someone who's just a casual person who just wants to know what's going on in the zeitgeist? But if you're like a full-on grass...
I'm a big counterculture. I'd suggest people go back and listen to Bob Dylan between maybe 64 and 69.
So this is not a suggestion.
I mean, you could listen to it as a gateway into really good folk music, but this is not. This is more of a pop song.
Pop song. For
it has the alt Sanford and Son kind of lyricism. Yeah, it has the higher voice and the. I like the darker acoustics and the ones where the person like sometimes you'll have a song about someone else who maybe they were down on their luck and they killed themselves, or they're down on their luck and they were starving and they didn't necessarily have this. But this song is more about entitlement and people being wasteful in their spending and not someone trying to very hard to get ahead and out of those sort of cycles of dependence. So I think it might resonate with this culture a bit more, but I really suggest that people go back and listen to
Bob Dylan,
really great folk songs. And
okay.
But go ahead. It's 3 minutes or so. It won't be a wasted 3 minutes.
One of the things I would suggest to check it out. I'm not a folk music listener, so this is kind of like my first real taste of being like, Now I get it. This may not be top line jerky.
I got to show you some.
I'll check it out.
Some Steel Ice Band.
I've been listening, but I want to hear about like real things, not like my dog died last week.
Well, exactly. So someone listened to pop country over the last 30 years. Listen to folk from the 60s and 70s.
That's what I'm saying. Like people are talking about real problems, real situations. This is how we're dealing with it. But I will end this episode by simply saying, if you are listening to country music and it's really negative, all you have to do is play it in reverse, and you get your dog back. You get your truck back, and the girl comes back, and the mom comes back, and the pumpkin pie comes back. It all comes back.
Pumpkin pie comes back, and
I love it. It's just like it never was gone in the first place. It just appears.
You just have to play it in reverse.
Just gotta play it in reverse. Alrighty, everybody. That's wrapping up for the Red Bean Podcast. This is Mr. Toad.
Dr. Frog.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.